What have you learned about the First Amendment recently?
About the First Amendment recently?
Yeah. Have you learned anything in there recently? Nothing? You knew all this? You knew what we were allowed to do in there?
I don't know what the city's ordinance is in regards to what you're allowed to do.
Screw the ordinance. I'm talking about the First Amendment, the amendment that you live and die by.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand what happened in there?
Today?
For the last 3 weeks.
Oh. What do you mean, do I understand? That you feel your rights have been violated?
Have they not?
I'm not a judge or an attorney to...
But you are someone who lives and dies under that First Amendment. That is your baby because you are a reporter.
Absolutely.
Okay. I would expect...
I went to lots of classes in college to learn all about it.
And that's the reason that I'm coming to you with this question. Mm-hmm. And it's important because what we see is that it appears to us that many times you're only writing from their point of view. And what needs to happen is the citizens need to understand that what just happened here and what happened at the county in the last couple of weeks is First Amendment class.
So, but you're by casting that judgment upon my publication, you're saying that we should be making judgment calls on what rights violations are happening, though we are not attorneys.
I'm thinking that clear rights violations, especially First Amendment ones, you have a responsibility to call out. Mm-hmm. You have a responsibility. And when and
when they are deemed so by a credible figure, then absolutely we will.
But do you realize who the credible figure was that backed them down?
In what case? Yeah.
In this case today. They threatened me with arrest for the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You're aware of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what happened tonight? We were able to say all that stuff. Do you know who that imposing person was that, or what did you say? What did he say just a second ago?
The credible figure.
Credible figure. Who was that credible figure that made them back down?
I don't know.
It was me.
Yeah.
I basically sent them a law and said, you can't do this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking you to do, man. Mm-hmm. You have to help us with this. You have to help the citizen. I'm not talking about me. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about them. Because what's happening now is as a result of the way they've acted over the last couple of years, I'm not asking anymore. I'm just filing lawsuits. But now you're going to have to pay for those.
But are they... but are they acting that way towards, like, your lawsuits are about viewpoint discrimination?
But what happened in there tonight? Didn't you see the 2 different times there was discrimination in there?
I think what happened tonight is the commissioner saw an opportunity to leave by 8 o'clock, and they took it.
Okay, but hold on just a minute. Let's back up and let's see what happened in public comment. Mm-hmm. You had Stephen Watts, who asked the commissions a question during public comment, where they don't respond to questions. And he waited for a response, and they decided to give him his time back.
Yeah.
You noticed that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now let's look at the other event that happened in there during public comment. The young man got up there and talked about the fire engine, and then during that, he was able to interject a question about asking for the grant, and then I interjected the question, why didn't they apply for it? His question was actually asked by the mayor. I was threatened with my first warning. Do you not see this?
Right, but do you not see why that is?
No, I don't.
That you are regularly coming to meetings and calling them motherfuckers.
Okay, so that means they're allowed to shut me down different than everybody else?
It means that they are going to treat people with respect who treat them with respect.
Okay, and so when we get to the respect issue, what part of respect do I owe the people in there who I've come to over and over and over again? And if you haven't gone back and watched the very beginning of when I started coming in here, let me remind you, I never said motherfucker. I never said words like that. I came in here very peaceably and expressed a very valid issue with police violence. Not one of those people ever responded to me. Never asked me a question, never asked my questions of the people like that happened.
I wouldn't be able to verify that without watching every video.
You could go back and see, and if you were paying attention to it, you would know that. But this is my point. You have taken their side, and you just enunciated it to me.
I haven't taken a side. I've simply
First
pointed
Amendment
out
is clear.
I've pointed out why you might be treated differently than other people.
And that's
so
okay.
You don't see
that
as retaliation and discrimination, Chris? You don't see it that way? You see it as he deserves it because he's not giving him the respect that they think that they need and that you think that they need.
As far as the respect that they're deserved.
If you respect them,
the respect
then you can
that they're
be treated
deserved
equally.
Comes from the elected position. The fact that thousands of people in this community agreed that they were the right people for the job. I mean, as far as the respect that they should be afforded, I would look upon those lines to say that there are a lot of people in this community that not only respect them, but feel that they are the right persons to make decisions for the rest of us.
Okay, won't debate much of that. But what I will say is that as far as everybody else and them deeming that they're respectable people and everything, but nothing you've said there requires me to respect them. And the First Amendment says I don't have to.
Right.
So why if you are not allowed,
allowed?
if you don't feel you should respect them, why should they respect you in your opinion?
They can't violate the law because they don't like us. They can't violate the
excusing
law.
the First Amendment violations with
How do you not know that? How do you not
Because you're
understand
basically
that?
saying that I don't respect them, I don't treat them with respect, so they're allowed to do this to me?
But
It's
while
understandable,
while
or it's at least
happening, he's
acceptable,
like,
palatable? Is that what you're saying?
People voted for
I'm
him.
saying that a person will treat a person the way they are treated.
Okay, and that would be fair if it was you and me on the street. Okay, I'm an asshole to you, you don't want to talk to me, I understand. That's cool. You're another citizen, I'm a citizen, we have our individuality, and I have to respect that because that's you. These motherfuckers are elected officials that answer to all of us, and they're working with my tax dollars just the same as yours.
They like you said, they answer to
All of us.
And there is a larger majority of us, of the people, excuse me, not us, there's a large majority of the people who feel they're doing a great job.
Okay, so that means that I'm not allowed to go in there and say that they're not doing a great job?
In any way he wants to?
You do. You've been allowed to do that over and over and over again.
And so when I get very animated in my speech about that, and that's allowed to be shut down?
And then they welcome you to come back the next week and try again.
Gotcha. Chris, I'm not even sure what to say because as a
I have already told you I'm not a lawyer that's going to judge whether or not your rights have been violated.
I'm not calling you a lawyer. I'm calling you a newspaper journalist, somebody who's employed with the Lawrence Journal World and has been for a number of years.
Should be a defender
who lives and dies under the First Amendment, and you can't see this? You're going to talk to me about feelings?
It's unbelievable.
Well, I mean, you're the
superiority
one talking
that
about
they have
feelings.
about it
I mean,
as well.
I've simply said that a person is going to treat you the way that you treat them.
Okay, and that's acceptable for politicians to do that?
In their official capacity, I don't know.
What we're talking about.
That's what's happened. I'm talking about their official capacity. They are in their official capacity, silencing people, threatening them with arrest.
And
Well, not people.
Using the law.
Not people. You guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not people.
They let Chris Flowers do whatever the hell he wants tonight.
So we're not people. We don't count.
I'm not saying you're not people. Of course not.
Then what are you saying?
I'm saying that
Chris Flowers is allowed to say it. I was threatened with arrest for it. What
admitted
happened?
it. We're
Why?
treated differently. That's called discrimination and retaliation. Whether you like.
Maybe Chris Flowers doesn't follow people into the parking lot screaming obscenities at them.
Follow people into the... So I'm scary now. That's why they do this.
You're scary when you say you want to start carrying a gun to the meeting.
Oh, okay. So that scares you, even though it's a constitutional right. And here's the reality of this, Chris. What's going to happen is they're going to be forced to spend $50,000 for a magnetometer, because I'm not going to want to go in there without my weapon, knowing that you could carry yours in there and not have it taken away. Do you understand that? Does that not make sense?
That you want to cost the city more money?
Wow. I don't know how to respond to some of your obfuscation of the Constitution and the rights that we have.
I am not a constitutional lawyer. But I've taken plenty of classes in the First Amendment.
We know that, man.
Okay,
we know that.
Let's leave. We'll leave the Second Amendment where it is, and that'll be something we can disagree on. But I cannot let you not understand the First Amendment and literally say that it's only us. The people are okay. They're all the people are allowed to do it. It's just us two.
It's just us.
You don't understand the problem with that?
Or that you will be that person someday, Chris, if you have an opinion that is not liked.
Do you know why I stood up
It's not
for him?
fathomable, is it?
Do you know why I stood up behind him?
Yeah, I agree, man. I didn't think so either.
Why did I stand up behind him? Do you know?
You don't
You
think
know why I
things could
stood up
ever
behind him.
change, man.
No,
You
I
don't
don't.
think
You
things
don't
could
know why
ever
I stood
change.
up behind him.
Absolutely not.
I stood up behind him for the same exact reasons that I'm trying to get you to stand up behind both of us. Because we have constitutional rights in this country, and they're being eroded by people that will throw
In
you
your
out.
opinion.
Like
in
us
my
or
opinion.
not. Like us or not, we do.
Okay.
You've even just said.
When a judge agrees with you, I will agree with you.
Bet. And you're going to write the story, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And-
I wait for the day.
Yeah. But until then, the First Amendment is malleable, and it's under interpretation in the city hall.
Until then, it is under the interpretation of the courts.
No,
Until the
until
courts
then-
decide that,
Okay.
that you
What
have been
Chris
violated.
said was that all other people
So
get to
Cohen v.
speak, but you and I.
California
That's
means
what he
nothing
said.
to you.
So
Are you Cohen? Is this California? I can't, as a non-attorney, I
Great
can't tell
rebuttal.
you how precedent will affect you in your case.
Am I Cone? Is this California? Chris, in your journalism classes, you did not study Cone at all.
Probably we did, yeah.
Probably you
Sure
did.
we
So
wrote-
you've forgotten the First Amendment. Is that what you're telling me?
So Cohen v. California is the First Amendment. Is that what you're saying?
The Cone v. California makes up a part of granting us those rights. It's a case that-
Granting or ensuring?
ensuring. It's a case that has come along and said, no, you cannot stifle speech that is offensive to you.
you can't criminalize it either.
You can't criminalize it.
Which
Exactly.
is what these guys are doing.
That's what's happening.
Can I
here.
ask you not to do it where there might be young children?
Oh my goodness.
And this, now we're going to get into the thing with the police and asking me, is it really an ask or am I required to?
I am asking, just from my personal standpoint as a resident here, is it okay to say these things where children might be?
It's a freedom of speech that's guaranteed by the Constitution.
I understand that,
So
but,
the
but
answer
would,
is-
a, would a
so I'm
reasonable
asking you-
person use
so you're-
that speech in front
I'm
of
asking
children?
you if it's a freedom of speech guaranteed by the Constitution, is it okay? I'm asking you.
to say what you say in front of children.
If my words, and let's assume that my words, just for right now, we're not going to say that they are, but let's just assume that my words are protected under the Constitution. When is it not okay for me to say them?
Mixed company, I suppose, in
Mixed
front
company.
of children. Yeah,
In front of children.
yeah.
So my constitutional rights are now suspended in front of children. What other categories of people am I going to have my constitutional rights suspended for?
I don't know.
The elderly, the disabled?
Journalism.
Maybe, I suppose,
Maybe.
if they're offended. Yeah.
2024 in Liberalville.
Wow, I'm done with you. I'm done. I got everything I needed, dude. And the
Liberalville.
text conversation that we had after tonight, I'm putting that shit out, dude. Because you are so fucking confused about the First Amendment and you are literally going to let feelings rule?
Well, he's blinded by his
What
politics,
the fuck
too.
did you learn in college?
Blinded by
What
his
did you learn?
politics.
You're going to literally tell me that my rights are able to be suspended based on mixed company? What is your problem with understanding inalienable, God-given rights that are enshrined in law in Washington, D.C.?
People died for.
I understand
People
that they
fought
must be
and died for.
interpreted by those who interpret them and
And-
make rulings thereon.
Is Cone not an interpretation that a ruling has stood and it stood the test of time?
But,
Is it?
but I cannot say whether or not Cohen applies to your situation.
Okay.
Was Cohen showing up to public meetings calling the police chief a motherfucker?
Cohen was showing up to public meetings with a sign with an offensive language on it, which is what
At the
happened at the
library.
Douglas County meeting. You notice that the sign is not the issue here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but Cone still applies because it's speech.
Are
Whether
you an
it's
attorney?
written,
Are you
whether
an attorney?
I am not an attorney, but right now, Chris, I would bet that I probably understand First Amendment law a lot better than you do. And the only reason is because I've had my head down in the books for the last 2 or 3 months researching how to beat this and how to make these people understand that the adjustments are necessary. And if you're not seeing the changes, why is the Douglas County Commission all of a sudden backing completely down now? Why?
I don't know if they're backing completely down. I don't know in what context you're
They
saying
refuse to do anything about the signs and about the language now. They're refusing to kick us out of the meeting. Tonight in here,
that. Probably waiting for the same thing that I've suggested for the court ruling.
for the court ruling. Waiting for what court ruling?
Waiting for a judge to determine whether or not what you've done is
What judge?
right or
I
wrong.
haven't filed
What
anything. What are you
judge?
talking
I'm not
about?
under any criminal indictment for
Yeah.
anything at the meeting.
Nothing-
What judge is going to decide this?
What are you talking
I
about?
imagine it's in Mr. Spee's case.
You'd imagine
where he's
wrong, man.
arguing viewpoint discrimination against the city commission.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's granted that it's in his case.
No, it's not.
So
No, it is not
viewpoint
granted.
discrimination.
This particular instance that we're talking about right now has just happened over the last month.
Right.
Or so.
That this part is not in his case.
Okay. But is your activity under the same application, I guess, it would be my question, is if the ruling is in Mr. Spee's favor.
But here's the malady of this conversation that we're having and this comparison that you're making right now, is you're asking me to defend the validity of my constitutional rights. No. I don't need
not the validity of your constitutional rights, whether or not your constitutional right has been violated under the current application.
Okay, so
with the mindset that in front of children we can have our
Right.
free speech restricted. That's how you view this. So it is okay to restrict
I
speech.
would hope your mother has taught you as much.
That's not the question, though, Chris. There's a difference
This is
between
not
what the
about
right
whose
is
mother
and what kind of morals you
or
think you have
the-
or don't have.
Your morality versus my
Yes, it's
morality.
entirely different
It's
than
nothing
that.
to do
You
with
know
that,
it.
and that's why the Constitution
know it
is what it
too.
is. It puts the morality question aside and says what is what do they say? A curse word is a lyric to some. Okay, that's a morality question. It's been put aside. The morality of these issues has been put aside by the Constitution, by the Bill of Rights, and by the amendments that we have. But you're
the
inserting
application of all
you're
of those
inserting
things are
that
still,
morality back in by saying
the
that I can't
application
do it in
of
front of
those
kids.
laws, the application of those rights and laws are still subject to the rule of law.
What court has said that I can't say fuck in front of children?
I don't know. I'd have to do the research.
I don't think there has been.
Yeah.
Well, that's the point he's trying to
Probably
refer
the same law
to.
that puts R ratings on a movie.
Okay,
It's
our
totally
ratings on a
different.
movie
It's totally different.
is different, man. You're talking about regulations on media companies and different things like that.
Are you not
there's some
purporting to be a media company?
there's some First Amendment implications there, but you're talking about the movie and the screen actors and all that. There's a lot more to play in there.
Right. And
I'm talking about
these people
the raw,
These people broadcast to the public.
and they tried to use YouTube's policies to restrict. I am a YouTube creator. That whole argument about the policy thing about YouTube was total bullshit. That's why they dropped it a year and a half ago. This whole thing about broadcasting, if they were really concerned about it, why didn't they stop broadcasting public comment like they said they were going to? Chris makes a valid point.
I was kind of confused what his point was tonight.
So now who's the problem? The people that are not following their own rules, or the people that are showing them that they're not following their own rules?
And that applies to everything. We don't know what's
Your
allowed to be
morality doesn't
said. We
matter
don't know
in
what's
this,
allowed
Chris.
to
That's
not,
what we're trying
what
to,
we can do.
Your morality about us not being able to say it in front of kids, your morality about us respecting them, those are moral decisions that do not come into play with God-given inalienable rights. Is that not something that you can understand and agree with?
Something that I can understand.
You don't agree with that morality has nothing to do with constitutional rights? I'm not talking about whether you like me or not. I'm not talking about whether you want to associate with me or not. I'm talking about whether you can legally stop me from doing those things.
Well, I can't legally stop you from doing
Exactly. So according to the Constitution,
I can get up and complain all I want.
right, but if you go file a case in court saying that you're upset because I cussed in front of a child, what's going to happen to that case?
Depends on the context of in where and how you cuss in front of that child.
Okay, so you think just my words, I might get convicted?
Depending on
because
the
I cursed?
circumstances.
Really?
That would be up to a judge and jury.
See, this is a big part of the problem that we have when people like him get assaulted on the street for the sign that they have, and then nothing gets done to his assaulter.
It's an interesting case.
And it breeds violence against
you never
those that are
reported on it?
outspoken.
How come you never reported on it if it's that interesting?
Well, I mean, it was several years before my time,
But we have bred an environment of what are they called? The vigilantes. We have bred an environment of vigilantism. And I actually had to ask a commissioner here recently, when does it stop? Does it stop when somebody takes a shot at me? The vigilantes? How about the vigilante that stopped his car in the middle of a sidewalk and attacked me?
That interesting case.
How about the vigilante that spit on him?
Pulled a gun
How about
on
the
me.
vigilante that attacked me at the homeless camp?
Pulled a gun on me.
I mean, these are people that don't like the things that I say, And because the city commission has villainized me and treated me this way, now they've given this appearance that it's socially acceptable to do these things to me. Does that ring a bell? Does that make sense?
I understand your argument.
This is the reason why those constitutional rights cannot be malleable the way you're trying to make them.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the city commission has taken this in-between stance about what constitutionality is and what our freedoms are, they're creating questions in the public. They should already know it. They're elected politicians. They should know these laws.
Yeah.
And when the mayor directs...
Well, why should they know them as an elected official?
They're using them against me. They better know the laws that they're using against me.
Because they swear an oath to the Constitution.
They need to know
Do commissioners swear an oath to the Constitution?
They need to know the laws that they're preparing to
I understand
use
that
against
police
us.
swear an oath to the Constitution, but does a commissioner?
Well, let's talk about your police and your sheriffs.
Absolutely.
They're going to openly just do whatever the commission says without any regard to the laws that they've sworn to uphold.
Mm-hmm.
I've got that on record from all of them.
Mm-hmm.
That Miller in there, if the commission says to remove me, he's just going to remove me.
Mm-hmm.
They'll figure out the charge later. Did you kind of see what happened in that court hearing? Kind of the figuring out the charge later bullshit that goes on? That's all I got for you, Chris.
I definitely.
That's all I got for you, man. Have a good night.
Would it make a difference if they did or didn't swear an oath to the Constitution? Would that matter?
The commissioners?
Yeah, would that matter?
Well,
what's the
I guess
distinction?
my question there, that I'm pondering is, a lot of people don't think that politicians need to be qualified. They want to be able to just elect whoever they like. Recently, it's been a couple of years ago, but say Rick Wilborn, he's a big guy in the Senate, Kansas legislature. He bragged to me one time that he was the first non-lawyer to lead the judicial committee in the Kansas legislature, where that was kind of, so for somebody who hates lawyers, that's great news. But for somebody who wants, the judicial committee to be run by someone who has practiced and studied the law, it's a bit concerning. You want someone qualified, and especially in the judiciary, qualified in that regard. So for the people who say that we're just glad a non-lawyer got into the position, those are credible voters, and they have a right to their opinion, and they got the guy elected, so why not? But logic would say that, well, now you've got somebody making rules about the judiciary that doesn't understand the judicial process. So
when do you think that mindset changed? Do you think that starting out the gate America was like that? Why do you think that changed? Like, why would we surrender all of our...
I try not to categorize all of people as having a singular opinion.
Right, but I'm saying, like, that idea of being qualified wasn't out the gate. You didn't have to be a lawyer. Matter of fact, a lot of people were just farmers because it was a representation of the people, not a representation of lawyers. So where your argument fails right from the beginning is you talk about being qualified. And I think that's the issue a lot of you guys had with somebody like Trump. You say he wasn't qualified, meaning he wasn't a lawyer or a politician. Same thing is applying here now. You're saying, well, are they really even qualified? So therefore, are they off the hook for not being able to defend the Constitution? I mean, if they weren't supposed to defend the Constitution, how can you bring a civil rights action against them?
I think you could probably bring a civil rights action against anybody. Ultimately, anybody could violate your rights in one way.
Oh, really? This is for the government.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lawsuit against the government.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're
the government can't violate your rights, and they are the government.
Right.
Right. So they need to be
very,
protecting.
Very small part of the government. Yes.
They're a very small part of the government. Really.
Absolutely.
Really, that can do a lot.
The executive branch, if my 8th grade civics doesn't fail.
What you're talking about? So these people here is a very small branch of the government. Is that what you're saying?
They would be under the executive branch, having been given powers that were given to the state, then to the city.
So it don't matter how
the county,
it don't matter.
city.
It don't matter how big it is. It's how much power they have, and they wield a lot of power. They have enough power to ruin people's lives, man. So it doesn't matter the size of them. They have to be protecting rights. And I'll tell you another reason. I ain't gonna keep it much longer, but I'll tell you another reason. And I saw you kind of give me raised eyebrows, just in disbelief when I said this earlier. You might not think it, man, but you could be the next one in line, man. You might wake up someday, some world event changes, and your mindset is totally different. You want to come in and voice it, and they will shut you down. And I'll tell you what, man, you won't like it. You might think right now, because you're on that side of, like you just talked about, the majority of people here like that, so you get swept up with the mob, just like you guys did with COVID and all that shit. But when it's your turn, you will not like it. It will ruin your life, Chris. It will ruin your life.
What I think of when I think of a situation like that is that would I sacrifice everything for that belief, or would I think pragmatically about the situation, pivot, and then go on with my life?
But you never know, Chris, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I absolutely agree with
you
that.
Thinking
but
right
to
now
say
from your point of right,
you'd never know.
You never know.
Is
it could
almost
happen.
living in fear.
Because it could happen. You need to be aware of everyone's rights being violated, because it could happen to you. You just never know. You just never know.
So even if it happens to me, again, it would be up to me in how I handle that situation.
But not knowing how you would
have faith. I have
That's
faith
like saying
in
you
my own abilities
to predict everything that could come your way, and you could answer it from your mindset right now. Let's say something the equivalent of COVID came along, but in a reverse order to you, that you just absolutely you just never ever know. But you're looking at it from your perspective right now. A lot of people didn't like
what happened during COVID.
I'm giving that an example. I'm giving it an example.
They got on with their lives.
A lot of people haven't, Chris.
Yeah.
A lot of people haven't.
Absolutely, especially people with long COVID who are still experiencing
No. I mean, people that were mistreated by people like you, that wrote negatively about them.
What do you mean, people like me?
Wrote negatively about reporters that wrote slanted, biased articles on everything about people.
What about the reporters that wrote positively about it?
No, I mean, I'm talking to you specifically.
Okay.
You and your publication.
Okay.
Yeah, wrote negatively, always.
About?
Anybody that opposed any of these COVID mandates, you guys were quick to demonize them. Have you ever mentioned that I have a doctorate from Kansas State University in any?
Nope. In an early report.
Nope, you never have.
Yeah, he's never mentioned that I've owned a number of businesses and been in management around this town for a long time either.
That I was a professor. That my students, college students, would be doing this in the 60s.
In early reporting, we definitely discussed that.
When you reached out to my university to get word from them to
university,
you reached out to the university.
Dig in, look for your dissertation for your doctorate, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's called a dissertation for a doctorate.
Yeah,
what'd you think of it, Chris?
We mentioned it.
You read it? Is that what you said?
I doubt I read the whole thing.
Right.
I'm sure I read the abstract.
But you said you looked into it. So.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I wanted to learn more about you.
Yeah. Never mentioned it in the story though, ever.
I mean, I'd have to Google it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was mentioned in early stories.
Did I have a doctorate from K-State in lifespan human development?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Marriage and family therapist?
Yeah.
No, never.
Yeah.
Never.
I'll go look it up. So and I'll shoot you an email. With
you say you're gonna look it up?
And I'll shoot you a link to the story.
Okay. You'll look it up and then you'll shoot me an email.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna hold you that.
I think we still have your email address. So.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do. And if you don't find one, what are you gonna send me?
What am I gonna send you?
Yeah.
A rough draft where I put it in there and for some reason it got taken out so you can feel vindicated. I don't know, man.
That you slant your stories.
Why
would you
is not mentioning your doctorate slant?
You're so quick on my lawsuits to mention about past criminal activity. Why is that even relevant to anything you report? If that's relevant, then shouldn't the other positive? What about I was a Navy veteran on a submarine? I have a PhD, a master's degree. I was a professor. I have an undergraduate in addiction counseling. You don't mention any of that. But you're so quick to say, oh, I got arrested and I got charged with these crimes. And you don't even mention that the disorderly conduct got dropped as part of that plea deal. You don't even mention any of that stuff.
I think I made sure to put that in the last story, that the disorderly conduct had been dismissed.
Not that it was dismissed.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you mean not dismissed?
That's not the wording you used, if I recall correctly. Yeah. It leaves it hanging. Everything you do leaves it hanging. Just like when, speaking of vigilantism, Anthony Lewis tried to run us over, and that was a legit complaint. Your story ended with, he can file a false report, as if that leaving it hanging that we made it up. So the question is, well, why didn't he file a report? You know, so why even put that in there?
Why are ejections from a commission meeting put under public safety?
It's all slanted, man.
Shouldn't that be under city government if there was no arrest?
I can't argue with you about.
Why is it a public safety? Why is our speech in there becoming offensive to people a public safety issue?
Anytime law enforcement is involved, generally I will write a public safety brief.
Okay. Do you not get the implication when we're always seen in public safety that we're a public safety issue?
Mm-hmm.
Much of this has been city government issue, not public safety issue. Was I a public safety risk in there tonight?
In your opinion?
In my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So what has made me a public safety issue, Chris?
In what way?
In whatever way you're going to define me as a public safety risk. What has made that?
Not everything we put in public safety is a risk.
Okay. How am I a public safety issue?
Okay, all right. Let me back up. How are you not public safety when you think that protecting the First Amendment is an issue of safety?
And so that fits better in public safety than in city government? Really? Come on.
What tag my stories get isn't really something that we spend hours debating.
But your viewers and your readers out here do categorize things in their minds that way.